thegearnetwork.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
Hey, this is Kip Winger, and you're listening to the All Bets Are Off podcast with Robbie Vegas.
What's up, rock soldiers? Welcome back to the All Bets Are Off podcast, and as always, I'm your host, Robbie Vegas, and today we have Rayen Belchere back on the show for the third time. You guys may remember Rayen. He's a great singer-songwriter, very underrated, super talented. Just had a new record come out with Early Ray, and we'll dig into that, so I won't give too much away about that. And you may also know him from his time with Wednesday 13, and also a member of Bourbon Crow. So we're going to dig into some things about the new record, and of course, you know, being a musician during quarantine and COVID and all those things. So stick around, and here is a track from the new Early Ray album, Apple Pie. This is called Where the Wild Things Are.
In Carolina, there's a place right off Lancaster Highway where the rowdy hill raisers come out to play. 20 miles down in the sticks is where you'll find us getting real loud and causing a fuss way down deep in the woods underneath the stars. We don't have a velvet road, we don't have a covered charge, we don't use martini glasses, just mason jars. Welcome to the jungle, boys, where the wild things are.
So what's up, man? Thank you for being here again for your third time.
Hey, back for more like rap.
That's right. So what's been going on with you, man? I know that things have been crazy for the entire world, and the whole reason I want you back on the show is because I want your perspective as a musician. What's been going on since COVID?
I think it's a little different for everybody, I guess, depending on where you live. Like, I'm able to still play a little bit with outside shows. You know, certainly people are being safe and cautious and all that kind of good stuff. But I know there's a lot of places people can't even do that. Mainly I've been spending time writing, working on new creative projects, trying to put myself in that headspace because I personally don't think we're going to be able to get back out there. Earliest I'm thinking is, early 2021, maybe. Mm-hmm. That's just my feeling from, talking to people in the industry, talking to bigger touring acts and some of their friends and some of the people that run their shows. It doesn't look like anybody has any plans for this year. So, God bless the people that are still going out there playing, when they can. I saw where Ron Keel from the Keel Band put out a fantastic. He probably put it out best. He said that he was going out to do a run of shows. Basically, he just said he didn't want to hear any shit from anybody, and he said, if he gets sick, he'll just stay at home and ride it out, and he's not going to take up hospital beds. He's going to, he was kind of like this gangster with it, and it was awesome. So if any of you guys get a chance, go check out Ron Keel's page and look at his announcement about his tour dates, because he was pretty straightforward on how he felt, and I had a lot of respect for that. And I think a lot of us feel the exact same way he did, and I'm hoping that we'll all have our opportunities to get back out there. But to answer your question, not a lot, because I've been a full-time musician for 20-something years, whether or not I'm playing acoustic gigs, band gigs, touring the world, playing weddings, whatever it is, I'm ready to go. But everything's shut down, so I'm kind of been forced back into the creative space, and I'm able to get out a little bit.
So are you finding that because of that you are digging into like different parts of you that you haven't in a while as far as creativity goes?
Yeah, for sure. Like, how we all have those projects that we're like, I want to get to that, I want to get to that, I want to get to that. I've had years, I have hard drives and hard drives of stuff that I've just been so bored that I've said, all right, I'm finally going to get to it. And I pull out these hard drives and I find all these ideas musically. I find a bunch of photos that I thought were gone. And so it's been a good time to kind of go back and dig up some old stuff and dust it off and see if it has, a chance to be something.
Well, speaking of all of that and getting out different music or ideas, you just released another record.
Yeah, Early Ray Band, my country band that I have, we re-released our first record, remixed, remastered by a guy named Paul at Big City Sound in L.A. He's a fantastic mix mastering guy. Matt Thor from MT Studios, Rough Cut. He's a good buddy of mine. He engineered the vocals, and we recut Cherry Pie from Warrant, which I know you're a fan of as well as I am.
Oh, yeah.
And we kind of did it apple pie for country and kind of tried to make it modern. And the whole idea was spearheaded by one of the not original guys, but the guy came in after the original guys, Billy Morris, who was really good friends with Jani. They lived in the same city. He's the one that kind of came up with the idea. He presented it to Stevie Rochelle from Tough, which some of your listeners may know. And Stevie's my friend and reached out to me and asked, and it took a while, but we finally got to the place to where we could cut it. Turned out great. And, Stevie made a couple of calls and got Bobbi Brown to come back and kind of reprise her role in the video. We shot at the Rainbow. We shot here. So, yeah, if you're listening to this and you want to check and you remember Warrant, you're a big fan or even a little fan or either any fan, check out Early Ray Apple Pie on YouTube or any of your digital streaming outlets. And if you want a CD, we got those too. But that was a risk we took, speaking of COVID, because we know there's really nothing we can do with the song because the song's a party song. It's like an outdoor anthem kind of song. It's the song that you would hear in between sets at a concert or, before a football game or something like that. So, we're stuck playing the waiting game on it. But it was a passion of mine to pay tribute to that guy because I don't feel like anybody's ever really paid tribute to Jani in a real way, and I thought this was cool, and everybody jumped on board to help out, and it turned out great.
Yeah,
so that was kind of a cool new thing that kind of happened during COVID. But my bad, I'm getting off track. Talking to me is like watching Pulp Fiction. I go everywhere, right? but going back to your point is a buddy of mine who works in country is like, dude, there's so many labels holding back releases that when all this stuff clears up, it's going to be a tsunami and you're not going to get there's going to be no breathing room. All the air is going to be out of the room. And he's just like, if you want people to put eyes on this, release it now. And that's kind of the move we made. And it worked. We've gotten a lot of love, gotten a lot of play for it. And we positioned ourselves to have something to run with when the time comes.
And I've been listening to it like crazy and I love it. And the remake of Cherry Pie, which you said is Apple Pie now, is so good. And I'm a huge Warrant fan. And like you said, Jani Lane, for as great as he was, he doesn't get enough credit anymore.
Right.
And I think that that's awesome that you guys took such an iconic song, but also it's yours. You made it your own. So even though it is Cherry Pie, it's not, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And a lot of people know my story and know that when I was a kid that Jani and I were managed by the same guy, the guy named Abby. And the contingency for me to sign with Abby back then was that I wanted to write with Jani. And I got to go and write a little bit with him. And, I was mainly studying how to write songs from a guy I considered a master.
Right.
And one of the lessons he kind of gave me, he was just like, he said, listen, I have 10 I Saw Reds. I have 10 Heavens. I have 10 Cherry Pies. He goes, but you don't need but one. Otherwise, you paint yourself into a corner. Always take your ideas and make them fresh. Always because I asked him, I was like, what's your advice? And he had a song that he played that was great. He's like, yeah, I already got something like that. So whenever the thing came down the pipe and it was a reimagined version of it, I remember him saying that. And I was like, that's exactly what he would have wanted us to do. And even Bobby said that in the quote for the thing, said that he would have loved it. That he would. If we would have came out and just redid Cherry Pie and just put a girl in a red outfit and kind of tried to mock, redo it, it would have just been whatever. But in the true spirit of that guy, this is exactly what he would have appreciated. appreciated. And it's not we're not knocking it off. We're reinventing it. It's not a parody. It's an honest tribute. You know, some people listen to it and just go, is this a parody? And it's not at all. It's just an honest tribute, kind of reworked for modern country, you know.
So did you stay friends with Jani through the years?
Jani and I were like buddies. I wouldn't consider him and I like friends, but we would text her, but we bonded. It was ironic because, like, when you become friends with somebody, you either have something you could bond over or you kind of can't. And musicians, I always found, like to talk about everything they like but music. And
Yeah.
the day I walked in to write with him, he goes, "Dude, I'm 6'4", right? You've met me.
Yeah.
I'm a huge human being." He goes, "You should have been a football player." And I said, "I was supposed to. I was supposed to play at University of South Carolina." And we just played the Ohio State Buckeyes in the Outback Bowl and beat them. He goes, "You guys just played Ohio State." Ohio State was his team. So we bonded over football. And then the next year, which gave us more of a chance to bond, we played again in the Outback Bowl. And so we were talking junk and just, you know, he was a really good dude like that. And he came through town a couple of times. I would see him. We would text. I'd send him a couple of ideas. He would write me back, tell me what he thought. You know, he did a show in my hometown. He needed a routing date. Bobby called me. I arranged for a show, and we spent the day together. So we were buddies. You know, I don't want to oversell it and say we were, you know, best friends, because we certainly weren't. But we certainly were on good terms, and he was nothing but generous and gracious with me, and as well as all the guys in the Warrant camp and the management, Bobby and all the guys that were so great to me. So it feels really good to pay tribute to that whole thing, you know, the cherry pie movement of 1990.
Right. Now, and you mentioned you did have Bobbi Brown for your music video as well, and was she somebody that you also already had a relationship with, or was this a new thing?
No, Bobby, just like a lot of us, and maybe you, but when I was 12, that cherry pie was the closest thing to a porno. Like, I was so locked into that video, dude. I was like, this girl is beautiful. She's flawless. And I had met Bobby briefly a couple of times through, like, with friends, like, hey, nice to meet you, but not met her. Mm-hmm. But when I was recording the vocal at Matt Thorne's studio, Matt played in the band Rough Cut. He also plays with Stephen Piercy. He's a real dude. He's got gold and platinum records hanging on his wall. And we were cutting the vocal, and he goes, "What is this for again?" Because he did vocals for Warrant. He did a couple of Warrant records. Yeah. I told him, I said, well, it's just an idea that Billy had, and I'm thinking about relaunching the band this year with it, and just something new. He goes, "I think this could be more than something new." And he called Stevie, and he's like, "This thing is going to turn out great." And I had already lined up, because I wanted to bring the Sunset Strip, an honest representation of it, to the video. So I was just going to shoot a little scene in the Rainbow. And the Rainbow, I've been going there for 25 years, and they hung my photo up in there as a courtesy when I got married. It was kind of like a gift. But when they hang your photo there, there's a set of, like, I don't know what you would call it, like perks you have as kind of a member of the Rainbow. Mm-hmm. And one of them is being able to shoot video. And like Matt Sorum said in the documentary about the Rainbow, he's like, yeah, they let us shoot here, they let us eat here. And that's 100% true. I called, I just said, I have this idea. I'm trying to do this thing with Warrant song. I don't know what this is going to be, but can I shoot inside tomorrow? And the guy was like, yeah, be here at noon. It 100% could not have been cooler. So Bobby, of course, felt like, okay, it's at the Rainbow. My buddies are into it. Stevie was into it. So she agreed, and she heard the track. She loved it. And, you know, if you watch the video, you see that we didn't try to, you know, throw her in a bikini and try to make her recreate the apple pie thing. It was more of a tribute to her, too, and you know, her involvement. And the iconic little wink at the end, my friend Stacy said, and I always say this in interviews because she nailed it, it's like when Bobby winks at the end, time goes in reverse to 1990. Yeah. And if it captures that feeling, just for a minute, that's the goal. And if you don't like the tune and you like Warrant, pull out some Warrant records, and the victory's still there because it's just a tribute to the guy.
Right. That's huge, man. That's awesome. So besides Apple Pie, what is your personal favorite track on the new record?
Besides the Apple Pie? guy?
Yeah.
Man, let's see. I'm looking at it right now. There's a great ballad that I really like called "If You Can't Find the Time."
Yeah.
And there's a glam country song called "Lemonade." Those two songs, I would say, are my favorites on the record.
And like I said, I've been listening to it like crazy, and I think it's a great record. But, I always tell you that, so I'm sure that's nothing new coming from me. But I really urge people to check this out. It's so good. So good.
Thank you.
So, kind of curving away from, your record, but also staying with what we were talking about. We keep talking about Jani Lane, but another 80s rocker's been making some headlines lately with Sebastian Bach challenging Chris Jericho to a sing-off. Did you hear about this?
Oh, my God. Yeah. I saw that whole debacle.
What's your weigh-in on Jericho saying that he can out-sing Sebastian Bach?
To be honest, today he can. And 1989, it wouldn't have even been a competition. That's just so it's kind of a tie. I think Jericho's got him today, but in 1989, nobody could touch Sebastian. Nobody.
See,
so it's tough, man. And that's just because Sebastian's been singing for 30 years every night of the week, and his voice isn't what it used to be. Just like Bon Jovi or Paul Stanley or any of those guys that sing every night. And Chris Jericho is dude, he's awesome entertainer, great singer, great frontman, nothing but respect for that guy. It's like putting a guy in his prime against a boxer who's been retired 20 years. The boxer still thinks he has it, but he really doesn't quite have it like he used to. But I'm nothing but a fan of both of those guys. But I gotta admit, it was one of those things. I'm like, couldn't you guys have kept this in private?
Right.
Because, a lot of us dudes like both of you guys, like I don't want to sit here and pick one, but that's just my honest truth. As a musician, I think Chris Jericho is a capable singer who today can probably sing that stuff as good, if not better, than Sebastian. But in 1989, 90, 91, 92, all the way through Jesus Christ Superstar, Sebastian would have smoked anybody on the planet. So it's I know it sounds like I'm kind of dodging the question, but that's just my honest feeling,
No, trust me, I understand, because I was torn at first because I like them both, but Sebastian is just so good, and I feel like he's still got a set of pipes on him. And then Jericho released, hey, this is me singing a Sebastian song, and I was like, you can't.
Nah.
And that's where the needle dipped for me, and I was like, all right, Sebastian.
But notice the thing that he was trying to compare himself to was the original track from the Skid Row record.
Right.
I'm like, Jericho, you're really stretching yourself right now, because that's in a league of its own. But let's put it this way. It was good entertainment, and if anything, Jericho knows how to entertain. And for all of us 80s nerds, whether or not we like one or the other better, it was definitely a new episode of what the fuck is happening now, during quarantine. We got Chris Jericho and Sebastian Bach having a sing-off on Twitter. What else is in store this year? Is Dee Snider and Bon Jovi going to go at it? Like, what are we getting, So.
I mean, Dee Snider is looking to go at it with someone, so you never know.
Oh, yeah, I see his post. I just got a tattoo of my dog crawling out of the Twisted Sister manhole off Come Out and Play.
That's awesome.
I'm a giant Twisted Sister fan, enough to get it tattooed, but 2020 is just weird, bro. I don't know. You have to expect anything right now. I saw where Nikki Sixx moved to Wyoming. I'm like, dude, you're the most LA guy there is. What are you doing? The
Right.
Saints of Wyoming just does not roll off the tongue like Saints of Los Angeles. And I love Nikki. I'm a big mark for Motley Crue and Nikki Sixx. But I'm just like, of course he moved to Wyoming. Why not? I mean, if this is 2020, the year of anything can happen. So
Yeah,
it doesn't surprise me.
that was the sign of how bad things were getting. Nikki Sixx moved away from Los Angeles.
Yeah, I literally have factored that into my plans because, just a side note, I go document pop culture stuff in a little page I have called Nerd Locations, but I had plans to go to LA and do a few recording sessions and try to do some location, nerd hobby stuff. And when I saw he left, I'm like, man, LA must be really bad right now. I might should wait on that,
Wait for Nikki to move back, and then it'll be all right.
I think that's the barometer. It's like when it's safe, I think he'll go back. Yeah.
Well, speaking of things going weird in 2020 and quarantine and all this, for musicians, it's been really strange for wrestling too, as you know. So have you been able to keep up with shows even without a crowd, or do you find it to be just kind of not the same?
You know, man, and you're a wrestler, so you might be able to straighten me out or smarten me up on a couple of things, but I watched WrestleMania, and I really love the Undertaker and the John Cena, those angles and those matches, how they made them kind of movies. I know it was kind of a knockoff of the Jeff Hardy thing that he did at one point, but they did it so well. And the rest of the matches, it's like watching your favorite. It's like watching an episode of Friends without the laugh track. That's what I compare it to. It is. It's like, oh, that's supposed to be funny. Like when you watch wrestling, the crowd reacts and then you react, you know. And without the crowd, it's tough. And I don't think the wrestlers are wrestling in front of 20,000 people. You tell me if I'm wrong. And wrestling in front of 12 people, your adrenaline levels are different, and your performances may not be as full throttle as they would be in front of 20,000 people.
Yes.
Am I wrong on that?
No, that's 100%. And that's kind of why it's hard for me to watch it currently, because I feel like some guys can still go 100% and it is what it is. But a lot of the time I just feel like it falls flat, and they are even feeling awkward, and it's hard to watch.
But I tell you, I did get to watch, and I thoroughly enjoyed, even though it was a brief moment where Matt Cardona, Zack Ryder, it came to AEW. I watched that angle.
Yes.
I thought that was cool, and I thought that was a great addition for that company. I watch that guy's wrestling figure podcast all the time because I'm a nerd for 80s toys, and he just seems like a fun dude, and he's a great wrestler. So I thought AEW definitely improved their roster by adding him. But besides that angle, I haven't watched much new stuff. It's like I tell people, they're talking about football without a crowd. I'm like, you know, I play football, and I can tell you, people are going to get hurt more without a crowd, because when you have 80,000 people chanting for your team, you get this adrenaline that you can run through a wall, and you protect yourself from injury that way. Same thing with wrestlers, but without that crowd, you don't have that adrenaline, so you're more likely to get hurt, and you're less likely to go 100%. And I don't blame them. It's not a dig at them. It's just what happened. You know, you put anybody in front of a crowd of 50,000 people chanting their name. What do you want them to do? They'll do it. Jump off the top rope backwards. We got it. But without anybody in the room, that jump off the top rope, you know how it is. Even if you think for a second you're going to mess it up, you just got to go do it. And I tried to watch some of the wrestling, but it was kind of awkward. I'm just like, these guys are going to get hurt. Like, does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
To a wrestler?
Oh yeah, 100%. And I totally agree with, if you have that moment to think about it, because there's no crowd backing you, you're more likely to slip up or do something wrong, because you just have to live in that moment. And without the crowd, I feel like there is no moment to live in. It's like a glorified training session, and if you go, a little too far this way because you were overthinking something because there was so much silence, that's where accidents happen.
Let me ask you this, and I know that this is your interview with me, but let me ask you a question, just because I'm a nerd for wrestling. Mm-hmm. What's the state of indies right now? Is it just shut down completely?
Yeah, for the most part, lately, within the last couple weeks, I've been seeing certain states are allowing indie matches to start up again, and I want to say that parts of Canada are as well. But as far as, for the most part, we're not hearing anything about when it'll be back 100%. I know that in New York, a few months ago, we were thinking it was going to be in September, and now maybe 2021. So it's everything is just so uncertain, and everybody's just kind of wondering when and how we're going to be able to do this again.
Well, I will say this to the listeners: if you haven't checked out Robbie's wrestling, please do. To me, dude, and this is just honest, I think you remind me when I watch your matches of early Shawn Michaels meets like early Matt Hardy. Like you kind of got that kind of edge vibe to you, but you're a great technician in the ring. So I'm putting you over right now to all the people listening.
Well,
y'all check out Robbie, and I think you're going to see yourself in climbing the ladder soon, because I think you would have already started climbing the ladder if it wasn't for this COVID stuff, because you were right there getting some pops. So.
Well, thank you so much for saying that. That is a huge compliment, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. It's true. I mean, let me ask you this: who do you get compared to when people say, you remind me of this? Because we all do. Do you get a specific wrestler more often than not?
I do. I get Shawn Michaels. I also get, depending on the match that I had, I've heard Bret Hart.
I can see that.
Which are two amazing legends, so I'll never argue with that. And I've actually heard Edge quite a bit.
I can see that too. I can see all those. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you dig that kind of style wrestling, check out Robby, because he's the next dude up in that style, that kind of tall, smaller, like, because you're not a muscle guy like Ryback.
Right.
You're more of a Shawn Michaels, Edge, Bret Hart. Yeah, I totally see that. That's exactly, in my opinion, I think what you are. So everybody check out Robby's clips if you're listening to this, because the guy's a badass and he knows his stuff, and he's an 80s fan like we all are. So. Oh,
absolutely. 80s everything, right down to horror movies.
Absolutely. Have you got a chance to check out any new horror releases?
A few. I saw Underwater, and I saw the new Invisible Man, and I think that's it for new ones, because I decided to subscribe to Shudder and watch all the old stuff.
You know what? I'm right on the doorstep of subscribing to Shudder. I think if they add a couple of more things I really want to see, I'm going to be a customer. It's just, I'm subscribed to so many apps. I have like HBO, Showtime, I have WWE, I have all these apps. Like, I don't need another app. I'm paying 3 times more than I pay for cable.
Right.
But all my buddies are really geeked out on Shudder, so I may have to check that out.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of used quarantine and COVID as my final push, because I was like, should I get it? I don't know if it's worth it, because like you, I subscribe to a lot of things. And then it was like, well, you're going to be home a lot more now because there's no wrestling and no gigs. So I was like, oh, I'm going to put out some new music and then jump on Shudder. So, I mean, I recommend it, and I think you would love it because I know your style and your taste, and I really think it's for you.
Cool, man. I'll check it out. I will definitely check it out. You have convinced me. I might get it tonight. Check out some new stuff. You know what? I did see a trailer for. I think looks really promising. Is the new Terrifier movie? I thought that looked like it's going to be good.
Yeah, I did see that too. I want to check that out also. And now we're gonna have to have you back a fourth time to talk about everything you watched on Shudder.
Let's do it, dude. It wouldn't be right, man. We got to get the 4 Horsemen in there. We did the Rat Back for More. We're doing the 3-peat and the 4 Horsemen. We got to do it.
Agreed. So I know you don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to curve it back to what's going on with you now. So the Apple Pie album is out, Early Ray. Yep. What's next for you while this is all still happening?
Just working on creative stuff that I can work on. I play a few acoustic shows outside, kind of like I always have. I'm playing one this Saturday in Charlotte, and I'm traveling a little bit to see some friends. But really, I'm like everybody else. I'm kind of hanging on to see what happens. I don't really do a whole lot of the politics. I just wake up. I ask my wife, what are we doing? Are we wearing masks? All right, cool. I'll wear it. Let's rock. And I'm waiting for the day she says, no, we're good. Because it drives you crazy to keep up with all the theories of what's going on. So I check out. I watch 80s movies. I hang out and create and write. And everything is out of my control because I'm the guy that recut cherry pie into apple pie. So I don't think I'm solving any mysteries anytime soon. So I'm like everybody else. I'm waiting, but in the meantime, I'm definitely creating, writing a few things, working on a couple of script ideas. As much as I can do. And just hoping to get back to rocking and rolling soon, brother. I hope we all get to. I really haven't thought about it until this conversation, but yeah, I imagine wrestlers, except for people on the highest levels, are shut down.
Yeah.
So you guys are going through it just like us.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride, man. But also, thank you for putting out some new music, because that's not happening so much anymore, and that's a breath of fresh air. So when I saw that you did that, I couldn't wait to get my hands on it. Something new, something fresh. So, props to you for going through with that and putting it out there during all this.
Well, thanks, brother, man. You've always been a great dude, and you've had our backs, man. And it's a big compliment to me that you dug it, because you're one of the guys that understand where I'm coming from. You're like, okay, this guy's like old wrestling, horror movies, 80s glam rock. And he's a football player of a human being, so he's not going to fit into any Bret Michaels tights. So I got in where I fit in. I brought the 80s kind of vibe to kind of more of a rock country project. So
yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, thank you for plugging it, and all you guys listening, if you want to check it out, go to earlyray.com, EARLYRAY.com, or just search Early Ray Apple Pie video or Apple Pie Bobbi Brown. The video will come up. You'll dig it. And if you dug the 80s, it might take you back for a minute and just give you that feeling just for a second. And that's the goal, is just to honor that time period, honor that guy, that band, that whole scene, because, man, what I think what a lot of us do to go back to 87 right now, you know?
Yeah, right. I mean, 87 was the year I was born, but I wish.
Right. Well, I'm saying, imagine taking you now and putting you on the Sunset Strip in 87.
Right. How
good of a time we would all have. You know?
Absolutely. So, I think about that probably more than normal people should. So.
Right, I do too. So.
Well, thank you for being on, man. I know you got to get going here shortly, so I really appreciate it. Before I let you go, I do, while I have you on the phone, just want to offer my condolences to Wednesday 13, just lost his mother. So I want to put that out there for listeners.
Yeah, man. I think it was kind of a sudden thing. Wednesday's doing as best as I guess anybody could do. He has a GoFundMe up right now. If you guys want to throw a couple of bucks at him to help him get through this time and help him take care of his situation, there's a link on the Bourbon Crow pages. And Robbie, I'm sure that you'll have an ability. You could post a link as well.
Yep.
But yeah, even if you can go in there and throw $5 at the guy, he's given so much to all of us. I think that, you know, this is definitely one of those times that you could say God needs a hand up, and you know, who else should be there for him than all of us? So if you guys got if your cup's running over at all, maybe look at that. Help out a fellow rocker.
Yep, absolutely. And anybody who follows me on Twitter, I've been pushing that link already, so get on there and find it through me. Find it wherever you can, and just give him a hand.
Absolutely, brother. Well, I'll pass that on when I speak to him, and it's always great to talk to you, man. I'm looking forward to the next one. We should do a grand reopening podcast when things open back up, and we could talk about how wild it is.
I'm in. And we're still going to do that Shudder one, and maybe we'll do like a Halloween episode where we break down some stuff on Shudder.
Dude, we totally should pick a few movies and fuss and discuss over it. And I'm going to lay the gauntlet down and say, first movie we talk about is Trick or Treat with Gene Simmons and Sammy Kerr and God, who's that guy's name? Mark something. There was a couple of 80s dudes in that. Ozzy was in it.
Yep.
So I'm laying is Trick or Treat on Shudder? Because if it is, I'm all the way in.
I gotta look now. I can't think off the top of my head, but we're definitely gonna watch that and discuss that.
All right, let's fuss and discuss Trick or Treat sometime around Halloween, brother. And I certainly appreciate you always looking out for me and all my friends and the Wednesday guys and helping us put over all of our projects and all the things happening. We really appreciate you, Robbie. Thank you so much, dude.
Not a problem, and thank you, man. You're always the same for me, and I can't wait to have you back on.
All right, brother. Let's talk soon.
Yes, sir.
Stay safe, y'all. Later.
Out behind the barn, swinging in the hay that's just been mowed, swinging all night till the cows come home. Swinging on the creek bank, swinging in the water, swinging skinny dipping with the farmer's daughter, swinging to the left.
All right, rockers. Well, thank you for joining us on another episode of the All Bets Are Off podcast. So you heard it first here. We're going to do a Halloween special with Rayen, and I'm sure that'll be a lot of fun. We have a lot of similar tastes in pretty much everything, so that'll be good for you guys. As I said, we are getting some Halloween things ready. We're going to try and do a whole, 4 or 5 weeks of Halloween episodes, so we'll see what we can come up with for you. We'll let you know. And until then, thank you for listening, and make sure you check out Apple Pie by Early Ray, and let us know what you think on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at ABAOpod. We're very active on Twitter and Instagram, trying to bring you guys some polls and so thank you for listening, and make sure that you tune in next week to the All Bets Are Off podcast.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network. Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Do you like sports, interactive polls, friendly banter from two guys that probably shouldn't even be on the microphone doing this stuff anyways? Well, if you do, then you're in luck. Us two knuckleheads, Brandon and myself, comprise the Listen In Podcast. That's right, Listen In, the podcast. We're talking sports, we're talking news, we're talking topical things, we're talking all sorts of things, my babies, and you are all invited to listen in right here on the Gear Radio Network.